Let's take a look at what we'll be expecting on the stock market for today. This video is brought to you by Invest Social, a community where a lot of traders, both experienced and beginners, analysts, developers come together to share market updates, to share trading ideas, and also to share forecasts and also give an idea of what will likely happen. So it also has a session for Forex, crypto, stock, indices, and community. You can actually become part of this group by visiting the site, which is investsocial.com. Now let's take a look at what we'll be expecting on the market news. So we will be expecting not really major news for today. So we will be expecting President Trump to speak. Then we will be expecting the prelim, which is University of Michigan sentiment, and we also be expecting the inflation expectation. So basically these three movements will not really have major movements on the market, except the one for the president, which is for the US. So basically I believe that should be before the stock markets open. Now guys, pay attention to this movement on the US president, right? We should be expecting what we think would likely expect is trade and tariffs. So let's hear, or let's see what we actually say on this. We should be expecting something like the economy. If the economy is doing well or is slowing down. We will also get a views on jobs, manufacturing, and growth. We're also going to be expecting some, the Fed rates, probably any criticism on the interest rate or whatever. We're also going to be expecting some talks on taxes and government spending. We're also going to be expecting some geopolitical, talks that we will be expecting. So these are one thing we should be expecting from the president. We do not exactly know what he will say, but let's just hope he will say something that will be very, crucial, or we are going to learn from this. Then once he speaks, then we are going to be expecting the preliminary, which is University of Michigan consumer sentiments. So we would want to know how the economy is doing. So basically it deals with what consumer feels, what consumer expects. So basically it talks about personal finance of consumers. We will also be expecting some, which will not really have a very major effect on the stock market. I just wanted to know that. We are also going to be expecting the preliminary University of Michigan inflation expectation. So let's see what will actually play out, by the way. Now, where all this, let's dive into the charts to see what we are likely to also expect on the technical aspect of this. On this chart, if you actually watched the analysis we did yesterday on our NASDAQ 100, our prediction was that this is literally a range market move. When markets literally got to this resistance, we had the rejection that made it to drop back to our support. The market came back to tap our resistance, and it rejected from the resistance and came back to the support. Rejected from the support and came back to the resistance. Rejected from the resistance right here, and then it came back to our support level. Guys, if you take a look at what NASDAQ 100 is doing right here, you will see that NASDAQ 100 is currently at the support zone. So we should be expecting a rejection on this our support zone back to this our resistance zone. So basically, this should be a bullish move for us. We should be expecting that bullish move between this Friday and next week, right? So between this Friday, which the day is actually going to end this week, until next week, we should be anticipating for that bullish move on NASDAQ 100. This is literally a ranging market move, and you need to trade what you see and not what you think. Since market is ranging, we need to range with it and not trade to what we think it will do. Because I know many of you guys will want to start selling, thinking it will drop and break below. So that is actually the wrong way of trading. You would want to trade what market is actually doing. So since market is ranging, you have to range with it and come back to tap this resistance zone. Now, let's see it on this 1 hour time frame. Also note, guys, you do not just hop in for the buy. You only go in for the buy once you get to the buy setup. Remember, the setup has not yet formed right here. Setup has not yet been formed. So we would only go in for the buy once the setup actually form right here. So the setup could be a reversal pattern. It could be a reversal candlestick. It could be, confluence, whatever thing you use to trade. You would want to just wait for reversal setup, which is a buy setup, before you go in for the buy. This is on our US 30, also ranging same with our NASDAQ 100. This is it right here. When markets got to this resistance, it rejected and came back to tap our support zone. Also rejected from our support and came back to tap our resistance. Markets rejected from the resistance and came back to tap our support zone. The market rejected from our support, then came back to tap our resistance, and it rejected from our resistance and came back to tap our support. So literally, market is still coming back. I believe markets will still come back to the support zone. So that will now serve as a setup, a confluence for us to go in for the buy for the day. Like I said, this Friday and next week, we should be looking at a bullish move on our US 30. Now let's drop down to our 1 hour time frame. This looks like market will give us one more drop. The possibility is there. It looks like market will give us one more drop back to this our support zone. If it does that, then we can now look to go in for the buy that will eventually make market to push up again to come back to tap this resistance zone. So above all, let's see what markets will actually be doing, right? Now for our Nvidia stock, our prediction yesterday was that we would either have this market push up to take out this high, right? That was our prediction yesterday. We said that we will either have markets to literally push up to take out this high, or markets will come back to tap this zone to form an equal higher low. That was our prediction. It's either markets push up to take out this high, or markets will come back to tap this low, thereby giving us an equal higher low. Then we can now look to going for the buy that will eventually push up again. That was exactly what we were expecting. That is what we were thinking. So markets literally came back to tap this zone, which is our equal low. Now this will be a good opportunity for us to look for a buy around this low zone that will eventually push up. Let's drop down to the 1 hour time frame. Remember, guys, you do not just hop in on the trade. You only want to get your setup first. Once you get your setup, then you can now look to going for the buy. So one thing we should be looking at for right here is a buy setup. So we should be looking for a buy setup around this zone. Once we can get the buy setup, right, that will be a very good thing for us to actually going for the buy that will eventually make market to push up. So I believe a triple bottom or a double bottom will form right here. Remember, do not trade based on belief. You trade based on actual setup, real market movements and real market charts. That is what you trade based on and not based on belief. Now, let's see what markets will do. Once it gives us the buy setup here, that will be a very good opportunity for us to go in for the buy. Remember, we are anticipating for the buy. So I want you guys to know that if in case market still continues to drop, the best thing I would advise you is just stay out of this trade and just watch it, except it now give us the setup for push up. Then you can now go in for the buy that will eventually push markets up. Now let's take a look at our Tesla stock. So markets actually came back down. My expectation was for it to come back up to tap a level of 400. The market came just eventually came back to a level of 387. This is one of the reasons why you should always make your bias very flexible and not rigid, because there are times whereby you predict a movement, markets will not give you that movement. Remember, all analysis is not 100% perfect. I just wanted to know. But if you have been following this channel consistently, if you have been watching the webinar back to back, you would have seen that most of the prediction that I do tends to move exactly what I predict to do. Now, if you see this movement right here, market has been coming to this zone multiple times and it has been rejecting. Whenever market comes to this zone, we tend to see a rejection, bounce up, and market came back to this zone and we had a rejection that bounced it up. Market has now come back to this zone and we are to be expecting a rejection that will eventually bounce it up. So for today, market is currently trading at 309. Let's see markets come to a level of 3,395. Remember, we are currently trading at 390. Sorry, we are trading at 390. That is the current price Tesla is trading at. Let's see if markets will be able to hit a level of 395 or possibly break above it for the day. Now, lastly, our US 500, it is still dropping. If we zoom it out, still very much overall trend, it is an uptrend move. But if you take a look at it, this is a major zone on our US 500, whereby whenever market comes tap this zone, we tend to see a rejection that will make market to reject and drop. The market was able to come back to this zone. It rejected and it dropped. Markets came back again to tap the zone and now it has now rejected. So let's see if it's likely to drop to a level of 3504. If market can come to that level of 3504, I think that would be a good opportunity for us to go in for the buy. That will likely be a good buy setup, a good place for us to open for the buy. Once again, do not just hop in for the buy, only just going for the buy. Once you see the setup, do not just hop in thinking markets will move that way. You need to trade based on the actual price movement. So if you find this video helpful, the best thing you can do is actually to join the Invest social community so you can actually get to learn more. You can actually get to share your own opinion and also get to read other people's opinion. Also, professional traders opinion also are there, and latest market news would be covered in the program. Once again, the site is investsocial.com. See you in the next video.